still building out this room, but a little place to recharge.
Yeah.
After a lot of working.
After a hard game of ping pong.
Yeah.
Maybe some time on the massage chair. You got to relax from all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially after the massage.
Especially.
You gotta chill out.
Takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And we got a content studio right in here.
Okay.
This is where the Zen Hard podcast is done.
Nice. What do you guys talk about on there?
I have different people who have achieved different things in life, and we go deep, try to understand how they navigate the world and what they do and their habits and beliefs, and just really how they became the people they are. All different walks of life. Just check it out. Zen Hard Podcast.
Has he been a guest on the Zen Hard Podcast yet?
One time he tried to take a shit in the office.
Okay.
And I had to run to get Cheyenne. And then he had to take him outside. That was the closest he's been to becoming a guest on the podcast.
I think you should have him on. That'd probably be your best episode.
Yeah.
Seems like he's providing the most value here.
He is.
Yeah.
You can't really argue that.
Yeah.
I do nothing.
It gets hair on the floor, which is a nice touch.
Exactly. All right. So to be a little bit more serious, you're the CEO of one of the biggest dropshipping companies. So my question for someone that's in like a position like you're a lot older than me as well. Like, how, we just went through your whole office and you have all these employees that have, their own respective roles. How removed are you from the business, I guess, and how involved are you with kind of, directing operations and whatnot? Because obviously, you have a lot of employees that are good at what they do.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great question. And there's kind of different waves of how involved I like to get. Mm-hmm. So, in the beginning of starting the company, it was my vision. I had to rally people. And when you're starting a business and you want to get great people involved, it's hard. Great people can go do anything. So what makes them want to join you? You have to have a strong vision and be persuasive and inspire people to do something. And in the beginning too, you have to really get something off the ground. But as it starts to grow, I think we have 250 employees. We might be at like 240. We made a few cuts in the last couple of weeks. Teams have to become autonomous. So for me, it's like maybe one quarter every year, I'll dive into the weeds in departments that I never really partake in, whether it's the finance department, figuring out how we're doing our financial flows with the suppliers and manufacturers we work with, or even like today, for example, like right now I'm kind of in the weeds. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, let's pop up VWO, where we do all of our split testing and optimizations. And I've never used it before, but I like to kind of bring my own. Sometimes I like to feel confident that I can make smart decisions. So, we got in my office, we popped open VWO, and I decided I'm going to make a variation of a split test on a page and write some of the copy and see how it goes. So I like to kind of go down deep and unearth decisions we're making and try to get the team back on track every once in a while. But I can't live there. Otherwise, I'd get burnt out, and otherwise people wouldn't enjoy their jobs, and otherwise the company can't become its own thing. It just becomes a product of the person that's running it. Right. So you're kind of in and out of operations and not. That's how I do it.
Okay, so with you guys getting this office as well, you guys have a big conference room. You guys have the couple other ones. I'm sure you have, team meetings all the time, taking calls, whatever. How is coming in person kind of changed, like how you're running the business? Has it helped better? Does it give you, better synergy, keep you more connected? What's it like being, more in person with stuff? Because I will say real quick, like, most people watching this are probably, they're running their own dropshipping or e-com stores, and, they're hiring, and most stuff is either VAs or maybe they have partners, but everything is really done online. And one of the biggest things that I push is, even if it's not someone you're running a business with, get out and network, see people in person that are like working at the same thing that you're working at, because that's always something that's helped me the most. So how, being in person in the office with your whole company, how's that kind of helped in keeping everyone aligned?
Yeah, so we only have maybe 10% of our people in-house, but a lot of the stakeholders and data people and people that we need to have conversations with back and forth to solve problems. So aside from, having fun and getting to know each other and building kind of more of a team bond, the real benefit of having an in-person operation is that no matter how good, and we built a really good remote company, don't get me wrong, like great systems, processes, but the main thing is like, no matter how good you are remote, what happens is there's kind of like 3 reasons why companies are inefficient as remote companies. First, there is a time lag, right? You have something that you want to do, you have to send someone a message, right? And then oftentimes, as your company grows, that person has to then go to someone else, who has to go to someone else, who has to go somewhere else, who has to figure something out, go back to that person. And by the time it gets back to you, it might be a day, it might be 2 days, it might be 4 days. So that's the first problem. There's a time lag. Second problem is there's a massive game of telephone. So if I ask someone for something, and then they go and ask someone else for something, and then they go and try to figure it out here, by the time it gets back to me, it wasn't exactly what I asked for. And not only was it not what I asked for, but it was 2 days later.
Right.
So now I have to go back, right? And the third problem is that now by the time it gets back to me, I'm no longer in that flow state that I was in, where I was in the problem-solving mode. Now my brain is doing other things, or my energy is different. I'm doing something different. And so sometimes problems that if we all sat down together and tried to solve, that we can solve in an hour by iterating, talking, sometimes talking over each other, sometimes being collaborative, but in the same room and going back and forth and looking at things together. Sometimes those problems take 2 weeks to solve. Sometimes it takes 2 months to solve. Sometimes by the time it's solved, it's not even a priority anymore. And that happens at scale across a company in every area of the business. So I think bringing people together has its benefits. There's also the benefit of having a remote company, though, where I like working from home, and it's optional here. We have 3 days a week that people, we highly encourage people to be here. But like when I'm home, I can go out and take a walk. I can jump in my cold plunge if I want to. Like I could feel good, easier. Right. So there's pros and cons to it. But I would say you can be much more productive on solving complex problems when you're sitting in the room with the people that you're working with.
Right. So with so many different aspects of the business and of a company this size, how do you know you're hiring the right person, and where do you find them?
It's we're at I don't personally do any of the hires anymore. It's usually the department leaders that do their hirings.
I hear that hiring someone to do your hiring is the best thing you can do for your business.
Yeah. And the simple truth is you don't really know if you hired the right person for a while. Mm-hmm. And also there's instances where someone new has been hired and you're not feeling so good about them. And then, after a little bit of time, they become and you can only learn this through experience. Someone could listen to this and say, yeah, I get it. But we had people early on in the business that I'm like, this person is I'm frustrated with them, whatever it may be, that are now irreplaceable, incredible people in the company that I could have easily cut. On the same notion, people, especially as you're a remote company or you get bigger or there's less interactions, it gets pretty easy for people to kind of just have a cushy position and do enough to get by and maybe not really care about the business. So it's a hard thing to do. But I will say the amazing people always bubble their way up to the top. The people that add a lot of value, whether it's a support rep or a salesperson, we've had people work their way up through the company, not because we said, we're giving you an opportunity, because they saw problems, they started solving problems, they became the person that other people look to, and they naturally rise up in the ranks in the company. So it's hard to have a pulse on it. Sometimes people that you don't think are good turn out to be amazing. Some people that you have no idea about kind of skirt through for a long time. Yeah. But there's specific tactics you can use. You can work with recruiters and hire people based on their experience. But the other thing is every company is different. My company, for example, when you're building your company, you think other companies operate similarly, or they use the same platforms or the same communication strategies. I've become an advisor for other companies, and I'll go in and it's a completely different experience. So if someone was good somewhere else, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll be good where you are.
Yeah.
So I think you really just have to do your best. You have to give people the tools that they need to thrive. You have to make people feel heard and know that they can come and not feel uncomfortable, talking to other people. And you have to check in with them regularly. We do check-ins, performance reviews, and have real talks with people. And there's no perfect way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I know with me being so young, starting out with online money, all the other kids in the world now that are starting out, whether it's drop shipping, trading, whatever online business they want to run, you fall in love so much with the solopreneur thing. You can work for yourself the whole time. There's this one way to make money. And then, once you start catching a little bit of motion with that and do start making money, you realize, as you try to step up and level up, you're like, okay, wait, I need to start outsourcing certain tasks in my business because that's actually how you grow. But I know even for me right now, that's like, it's definitely one of the scariest things because I'm so used to doing everything myself. Everything is done perfectly the way that it is in my head, and that's how I want it done. But then if I, hire someone else to do it, now I have someone on payroll. Yes, it is saving me time, but now I'm like, is this going to be done in my way? And it's such like a scary leap to take, like in your journey as being an entrepreneur. But it's like, it's definitely one of the big like stepping stones, I feel like, of leveling up your business and company.
It's a non-negotiable thing that you must do if you want to scale your company. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur and hustling and making money, but it's fragile. Things change. Social media changes. The market changes. If you don't build something that has a foundation, that has a customer base, that has a reputation, it's fragile. It's easier being a solopreneur. Like when I was a drop shipper, it was me and a team of VAs, and it was amazing. And I never built brands because I liked the lack of responsibility for having to deal with inventory and people and brand managers. Like I enjoyed it.
Right.
But like the way I operate is I outsource it's not like I'm too good to do things, but anything that I have to do always has to have someone else that can do it. That doesn't mean that I don't do it ever or I don't get involved with it, but I never want a responsibility to fall on me that no one else can do, because then you can't do other things.
Yeah.
So like any little thing, I'm always thinking about who's doing this. I'm never thinking about how am I going to do it. Occasionally I'll jump in or I'll work with that person or I'll do it, but it can never be my responsibility. That's the way that I operate.
Yeah, because it's just like your own business, and it's like, you built this up. It's kind of like your baby, especially when you're building a company, and, it's what's making you money and keeping you afloat. So it's like when you're outsourcing it to someone else, it's like sending your kid off to a babysitter, and it's like, oh, I hope they know what they're doing. But that is good advice, just, because it's something that everyone is always going to have to get comfortable with. And like you said, it's a non-negotiable to, always keep your business and everything growing. So with everyone watching this, Jared is basically like the first drop shipper, which like I kind of like, want to be made aware. You were telling us in the office a second ago about that story with the hoverboards. When you kind of started, selling stuff on your first store and you were outsourcing stuff to China, you would get an order, they would send it to you. Was this like another thing that you heard of other people doing, or you kind of just were like, wait, this is just kind of, it just kind of happened and it started working out and you scaled it up? And then, now it became what it is today? Or like, what was it like that early on?
Yeah, that early on, I never even heard of drop shipping. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because with the hoverboards, for example, we had some guy in China that could ship one out directly to anyone for $300. And I thought, I'm going to sell them for $1,500. And if people buy them, I'll just send the guy their address and we're selling a couple of them a week.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know I was drop shipping. I didn't know anything about drop shipping. I didn't know anything about, I didn't run any Facebook ads. Eventually I tapped into influencers, and that's a long story. Like the business ended up kind of scaling really quickly. We didn't have a patent on it, and it was a short-lived dream. But even after the hoverboards, I went out to China to the Canton Fair, and I found products and I imported them, and I had a warehouse and I had brands, video teams, and we built the whole brand. And it wasn't until like 3 years after doing all that stuff that I just received an email from some internet marketer that said how to sell products without ever seeing or touching them. Meanwhile, I was doing that years ago and I didn't even know it. And I watched this webinar and it showed me you can go on AliExpress and you can and I was like, why didn't I think of that? It's amazing. So I had started drop shipping the same product that I was selling as my brand for a cheaper price, and the cost per acquisition was proportionally lower. So I was instead of selling $80 products, I was selling them for $30, but my CPA went from $50 to $5.
Yeah.
And people would buy 2 or 3. So I just discovered it. And to me, I was fascinated by the model because I can run 100 products a week. I was good at Facebook ads at that time after a few years. And then after it took off, I never went back to the brands because I got so comfortable. It was like, I can always test products. All I need is a system. All I need is a media buyer that can follow my if-then rules, which is launch the ads this way. If the cost per acquisition is this, scale it. If it's that, kill it. And as long as they're following the rules, it's the same thing as me doing it. Customer support just takes a document because there's only so many questions that someone can ask. They copy and paste the answer. It's an automated business.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it after that. I never went back to the brands.
That's awesome. So like myself, I knew what dropshipping was for a while, but I never even started actually like deciding this is what I was gonna do or something I was gonna pursue till the end of 2022. And throughout all the other friends that I have in the space or people that I've networked with, I always hear, all this stuff about, back in the day or stuff in the old days. And I also kind of, learned this with like the whole YouTube era of, people teaching dropshipping and showing it. And then I'll try this person's strategy, try it myself, see if it works and, toy with stuff. And eventually I got to a point where I figured it out. But, I always think I'm like, wow, imagine I knew what I know now and it was 2017 and I could do this. Everything would just work. So what was it like? How did you kind of like watch the industry with dropshipping advance? Dropshipping YouTubers started coming out. The term was coined. There's, all these other softwares and services that are so big today, just like ZenDrop that started to get built around the business model. So like, what was it like kind of like in the early days when it really first started taking off, and like, how did you kind of see it advance? And also, where do you see it dropshipping itself kind of going in the near future?
It's a good question. When I first got started, it wasn't like there were people that were drop shipping on eBay years before and drop shipping on Amazon, and like the model of not holding inventory was always around.
Yeah.
But like anything, when you find something that makes a lot of money, other people start catching on, and then a lot of people start catching on, and then people start to exploit the opportunity of being able to help other people, which I also did, right? It was like, exploit's not the right word, but it's another opportunity to educate other people on how to do these things. And it wasn't necessarily easier back then. It was just different. So like when I got started, I would continuously hear dropshipping's dead, dropshipping's dying. In 2018, dropshipping's dead. 2019, dropshipping's dead. I started my education business. Oh, dropshipping's old news. That only worked in 2017. It's like that mindset is what's going to kill you. Like, it's not, first of all, the business model is just simply selling products so you don't have inventory so you could test more things. Now, do the same Facebook strategies work? Maybe, maybe not. Do the same, bidding strategies or creative strategies, or like things change.
Right.
Maybe it's TikTok. But as someone who's, learning any kind of business and getting started, you always have to be ahead of the curve, and you always have to be trying new things. You always have to be ahead of the marketing curve. So really, the business hasn't changed so much as people say it has.
Yeah.
The people that say that are the ones that tried something and it didn't work, and they're like, oh, it's dead. And then, good, stay out of it. It's more for us, right? In the future, I don't really see much changing. I mean, I think that platforms like ours and others out there make it easier for people.
Yeah.
There's more abundance of education and communities to rally behind. I think that the people that are, that keep a high energy and are smart and continuously try are the ones that are going to have the breakthroughs. Because growth doesn't happen linearly. It's not like you get a little bit better all the time. It's like you get worse and then like a little better and then worse. And like you don't know what the fuck's happening. Then eventually you like, holy shit, that just came out of nowhere. And it's only the people that persevere that get those breaks. And if you listen to the noise about, oh, it's not working, you're never going to get to that break. Right, so I don't really see things changing except for kind of getting easier, more tools being available. Maybe there's an offset of like people that go and shop on Amazon now, but okay, maybe 20% of people that see your ad will just go to Amazon. So what? Now you have AI that could build pages easier, and you don't need to hire as many people. Like, the model won't go anywhere. It's only going to grow, and even major retailers and enterprise businesses, they don't hold inventory anymore. Macy's.com, HomeDepot.com. They all drop ship products.
Right. Because
why would you hold inventory? It's a huge waste of money sitting in a warehouse, a huge waste of space. So it's not going anywhere. You just have to, get rid of the noise that like, oh, it's not going to work. That doesn't serve you. It does work, simply. So you can either do it or not.
Yeah, like I remember when I first started, and I think a lot of other kids and people getting involved and just even any sort of online business can relate to this. You always hear, oh, dropshipping's dead or whatever it is. And I knew about the model for a while, but I didn't really take that leap to actually go ahead and pursue it. It's just whatever it was of, starting your own business, becoming an entrepreneur. Obviously, it's a scary thing. But I just remember I would always put it off. I'm like, oh, it's too late. Oh, it's too late. Oh, it's too late. Too many people do this already. Too many people are already winning at this already. It's too late. I'll never get in. And now knowing everything that I know now, I'm just like you said, I don't think much has changed at all, but it just gets easier. There's so much education. There's all this AI stuff. There's so many different software services and apps that are just help you to do this faster at a higher scale. And that's something that I try to push on my guys a lot too, is like, if you failed for 1 month, like, okay,
So
like,
what?
yeah, literally, like, so what? Like, you're in this for years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be working for years and years and years and years. And I agree with you 100%. The model's not going to go anywhere. And it's like, dude, nowadays they're coming out with AI where you can put in a picture of your product. You can pick any UGC model, put in a script, and you'll have a full AI UGC creative. And then you can test those at mass scale with hundreds of them. And like, who knows? Soon you'll be able to type into a ChatGPT box, build me a DTC brand, and it'll be worth $100 million. Like, who knows?
Yeah, the only thing that holds people back is themselves.
Yeah.
Is that thing that you just said. Oh, it's too late. Too many people are winning. Blah 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 blah. Like, that's literally the only thing stopping people from succeeding.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like, people fail. The problem, actually, in my book here, Overnight Success, I talk a lot about this. It's a guide to have your first big breakthrough, like your inner game breakthrough in business. And what happens is, this is from my experience, is we grow up and we have a reality, right? Maybe your parents make a certain amount of money. Maybe you have one friend who has a really rich dad, but your reality is what it is if you grew up a certain way. And like, consciously, you know that there's levels, but subconsciously you don't believe it's possible for you. And the only way to break the subconscious belief that it's not possible for you is to achieve it, which is very painful because it's very hard to keep going through something when every voice inside of you is telling you not to do it. But eventually, if you keep going, something will be better and outperform that belief that you have, and now you have a new belief. And now it's like, okay, well, yeah, I could do this, but I can't really do that. It's like, that's what business is. It's a game of continuing to push through the bullshit and the pain of continuing to try until something breaks through.
Yeah.
And that it's a continuous game of that. And it never gets easier. You do get validation after a few times where it's like, all right, I know my mind's tricks, I'm going to keep going. But it never gets easier. Your mind is clever. It's good at convincing you not to do things. It wants to keep you comfortable. It wants to keep you doing the things that it knows that it's used to. But you have to just continue to push forward. And I think like having a community like yours, for example, is a great tool for people to be in, to see other people succeed, to learn from.
Yeah.
But you're the only one that can hold you back.
I have a perfect follow-up question for that. So I think you explained that perfectly because that's what everyone ever goes through. Your reality is your reality. You don't know if it's possible for you until you really break through that. And I still just, I've been doing any online stuff for literally, 2 years this month. And I remember vividly like what it felt like, and remembering when my brain kind of rewired and unlocked, saying like, okay, wow, you like really can make money online, even though it's not something you were, exposed to and used to. And then, as you run your business, as I've ran my business, you level up. And then like you just said, there's always another hurdle. And then you push through it, and then whatever it is goes down, goes up a little bit again, and then there's always another hurdle or another setback or another mindset thing that's going to prevent you from getting to the next level. And the only way to get there is by breaking it. And I know one of the things that helps me the most is like going to networking events, and like I said, having my own community, seeing other people do the numbers that they do, being able to talk directly with them. Is there a point in business that you get to where that kind of mindset thing doesn't happen anymore, and you're so exposed to all this stuff where you're like, okay, scale and growth and everything, it's just unlimited, you just have to keep going? Or is it always like gonna be a thing where it's like, oh wait, can I really do this next big thing, and how do I do it?
If it does exist, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Do I believe I can build $1 trillion company? Like, I believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Does my subconscious know it? No.
Okay.
Have I been through the patterns enough time to know that it's a very real reality that it could happen? Yes. Do I even want to? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, when you hear these things, especially as someone fresh and just starting out, everyone thinks that their life and their problems are the hardest and the worst. And they hear other people and they're like, oh yeah, they could say that because they, whatever, they have this, they have that. It's all the same. We all feel the same emotions, same ways, same fears, same anxieties. We all have it.
Yeah.
But after a few iterations of breaking through, of leveling up, like I remember when my drop shipping store took off for the first time, a long time ago. I was driving from Los Angeles to Florida because we were moving.
Oh, wow.
And I had a 5-day drive. And when I started the drive, I had the drop shipping store, and it was doing about $1,000 a day in sales. And it was like, to me, that was like amazing. Like, I never thought more than, when I grew up, like $200 a day was like, all right, that's like enough
Making
to live.
good money,
That's good.
yeah.
I can live. 1,000 was like, great. But during the drive, I was not doing work. I wasn't like showing up, going to the coffee shop, like grinding. I was just driving. And I just kind of like let go. And I had good music on. I was with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and her dog, and a trailer in the back of the car, and we're moving across the country. And like thought bubbles would pop up. I'm like, oh, maybe we should try duplicating that. So I'd call the media buyer, hey, let's try this. Long story short, the second day, by the 5th day of the drive, I was doing $50,000 a day. So I went from 1,000, I think it was like 3,500, 7,000, 15,000, 35,000, 50,000, or something like that.
Yeah.
And every time it went up, I was like, I would show my wife, girlfriend at the time, I'm like, holy shit, I did $7,000 today. Like, don't tell anyone about this. It's too good to be true. Like,
Yeah.
And the next day it's like 15. Like, this is too. By the last day, I'm literally like, all right, like, thank you, God. I know I don't deserve this. I know that this is not gonna last. It'll probably stop working tomorrow. But thank you. And like I couldn't even comprehend the fact that this was real.
Yes.
And then fast forward 2 months later, it's just continuing. And now that's my new reality. It's like, well, if I'm not doing $50,000 a day in revenue, something's wrong. If I went back to 10, it's like, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
If I went back to $200, it was nothing. So my reality shifted very quickly, and I got lucky in that sense. So I was able to have that validation that like you could have big shifts. But for someone listening that hasn't had them yet, they hear it. You kind of have to go through it though to really learn the experience, to really learn it.
Yeah, dude, my own experience with that is just for months and months, I was, building new Shopify stores, testing out products, trying to run ads and get sales. And just like you said, scale them up, make money, whatever it was. For 9 or 10 months, I never made a dime. And then it was in the month of June. I remember I started testing this product, and on the first day I did a few $100s. And I've done like, a couple $100s in a day before, but I was like, okay, wait, I've never done it this early. Like, this looks good. The ad metrics look good. So, all right, let's go again the next day. And I remember it was like my second ever $1,000 day that I did. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I made it. The next day, just did the same thing again, another $1,000 day. And then I had that same like epiphany moment where I was like, all right, what if I just kind of like up the budgets? Like, let's see what happens. And I went from a $3,000 day to a $7,000 day. And then right away I was doing like, I hit a $25,000 day. And I remember I was just like sitting there in my room. It was specifically on that day. Like, I had my phone on, like all the Shopify notifications were coming in. And like, this was like another moment I had where my brain was like rewiring. I'm like, wait, there's this many people in the world that are gonna like buy your thing online. I'm like, oh my God, like, holy shit, like this is nuts. And like that was my moment for me. And, I just continued it. And just like you said, like once you get into that new like kind of paradigm reality shift, and you're like, okay, this is my new reality. If I'm not averaging $20,000 a day on the store, there's something wrong. And then you're like, oh, there's a whole world and community of people that operate like this. You just like weren't aware of it yet. And then it becomes your new thing. And it's just always like, just leveling up to the next thing. But you really hit it on the dot with like kind of how your story went. And that was just definitely my experience with how it happened with me too.
Yeah. And I think there's ways to kind of hack your subconscious into not being so challenging to get through. Like, I always go back to like, it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. And if you could be the person you need to be, like, you'll figure out how to do the things. But so many people, especially in your generation, are, first of all, they're scrolling on social media all day. They're looking at other people's lives. They're feeding their mind a bunch of junk, and they're not tapping into what they really are at all. And they're creating this energy of anxiety, but kind of don't really know what to do. But they're kind of motivated, but they can't focus. And it's a recipe for, when you're thinking about where you're going to go in life from that state, you can't see anything but doom or gloom.
Yeah.
So it's like not so much about the things you do. It's more about like, okay, who am I going to show up as today? And that's like getting up, having discipline, reading, meditating, clearing the mind of all the bullshit. And from that state, you could start thinking about, where you want to go, and you can feel it, and you could change. Like, for example, everyone knows what they need to do. Everyone knows, oh, I need to go to the gym, or I need to eat health, whatever it is that they know they need to do. But we give in to so many impulses, and our subconscious is like, oh, what the hell's wrong with us? Why did we do that? Why did we do that? Your subconscious starts to root against you. It's like, we don't deserve this. But the moment you shift and you start to have discipline, and you start to do the things that you know you need to do, your subconscious shifts. It starts to say, oh, wow, like, we're the fucking man. Like, we deserve this. We deserve to win. And from that state, it propels you in the right direction. But from the other state, it keeps you back where you are. So it's like someone who's trying to break through, and there's a lot of stuff I talk about in my book. It's not so much about how to do it. It's about who do you need to be. Yeah. Like, that's where I would start 100% of the time.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome even today? Because, sometimes when you're running a business so big, especially we just mentioned, it becomes your new reality, and that's what it is. But sometimes I experience this, like, I have just an out of mind experience where it's like, wow, there's 45,000 people in my Discord server that know me, or there's this many views on my YouTube video, or there's this many customers inside of my Shopify business, and I'm like responsible for all of this. And obviously on a day-to-day, it's just like, okay, I'm operating in a business sense, but sometimes here and there I can be like, whoa, like, wait a second, this is kind of crazy. So Have you ever had any experiences like that?
I have, but I don't think imposter syndrome exists when you're true to yourself. When you do the things that you know you need to do, and you have full self-confidence, no matter where you are, you believe in yourself, there is no such thing as imposter syndrome. And also, people will sense that, and they'll get it, but once you're in this kind of new realm for a period of time, it becomes your new reality.
Yeah.
But I think that imposter syndrome is where you're in a place that you don't believe you deserve to be in yet, but if you focus on yourself and being true to yourself and keeping promises to yourself, you'll always feel worthy of the place that you're in, and I don't think that imposter syndrome exists from that place.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was on the dot. Let me ask you this one, because a lot of people that are young too that want to make a lot of money online, sometimes they haven't found what their actual true values are, or what they actually define success as, and everyone, just like you said, sees all this flashy stuff on social media. Did you ever have like a materialism phase where it's like, oh, I got to get this, a car, a watch, a house, like any of that? Like, how was that kind of like for you?
Yeah, of course. I grew up with a single mom in a 1-bedroom apartment as an only child, and like when I was 16, I remember I was visiting my grandma in Florida, driving her minivan. I saw some like young guy in a Lamborghini, and I was like, man, if I was that guy, I'd be made. I'd be set.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted material things. And I very early on spent a lot of money. Like, after the drive to Florida, like a month later, I bought a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah, like I made it. And then like you realize that doesn't mean anything. And also the other thing is like, yeah, it fills a void for like maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And then the next one you buy fills the void for like 3 months. The next one you buy fills the void for like a month. The next one you buy. Now, like, if I buy a car, I buy it because I want to buy it. I know it's going to give me a little bit of dopamine, but I know that's all there is to it. I know it's not going to fill the void I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is the people that give you the attention from having those material things are not the people you want the attention from. The real people don't really care. It's cool. Like, I have a like this gray 911 GT3. It's a cool car. It's stick shift. Mm-hmm. And like real people are like, oh, that's a cool car, right? But the people that are like, oh shit, like I don't really want their attention. Right? Yeah. I have no desire for their attention. I enjoy buying nice things. It's fun, but that's all it is. It's just fun. It's just a dopamine hit. In the beginning, it's cool, but you will learn that that's not what you're looking for. You will learn it. The problem is most people never get it, and they spend their whole life chasing it. So most people never learn that lesson. But the people who do get it, most of the time learn that it doesn't fill their void. There's more to it.
I know for me, my why kind of for getting into online business was mainly like my parents and like my family and wanting to help them out. And also, as I started to make any sort of money at all, the material stuff I would start to think about like, oh, I've always wanted this would be cool, or, oh, the penthouse or the car or whatever it is. But obviously over time, you realize like what your true values are. And I know you're big on this. I'm sure you wrote about it in your book as well. I think at some point too, especially like, if you've been making any sort of money for a little bit, you really have to find kind of, you got to sit with yourself for a second and find like what you value and why you want this, because you know, there's the Hormozis of the world that will just go and go and go, billions and billions and billions. But some people, especially starting out, they might not know exactly what they want yet, even though they think they do. They just think money, 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 or whatever it is. But, you know, maybe that same person is completely set for life, has everything they ever want, the most fulfilled, happy person in the world, if they're able to make $10,000 a month consistently, and they can have everything they ever want. Yeah. Some people need to continue to build their business forever and ever and ever and ever and will never stop. Some people hit a certain point, or maybe they want to exit their company and they'll be fulfilled there. So I think just my point is, like, it's really important for people to kind of sit down for a second, take a breath, because obviously you see all the flashy stuff online, whatever it is, and that's what you're going for. But to really, like, you need to define success for yourself and what actually matters to you. And over time, I learned that fast, where I had to, like, just, you know, take a deep breath and just figure out, okay, what is it that I actually want that will, like, really keep me fulfilled? Because I think it's different for everybody.
I think it's different for everybody, and it also changes through time. Like, I'm, 12 years older than you?
Yeah.
34?
Yeah.
Like, now all I care about is my family.
Yeah.
I don't really care about anything else except for them. That's not what I was like when I was 22. When I was 22, I wanted girls and money and experiences. When I was in my mid-20s, I wanted experiences and cars and houses. And now all I care about is my family. So, like, it changes over time. But I think the one thing that everyone needs to be fulfilled is they do need some area of growth. It doesn't have to be financial growth necessarily. It could be physical growth. It could be, you know, mental or spiritual growth.
Yeah.
It can be learning, you know, music or art, or, you know, building a business, maybe not for the money, maybe it's a charity. You do need growth, because when you're in a state of stagnation, I don't think anyone can be happy. It's like, you know, I don't remember where I heard this. Someone said, yeah, if I had $1 billion, I'd just be on the beach drinking margaritas. And it's like, okay, like, after you drink one, are you going to have another one? Like, what about the next day? You're going to have another one? It's like, okay, after a week, are you going to keep drinking more? Like, when's that going to be enough? Like, when's that going to be done? So I think no matter what it is, and especially if you're young, like, don't worry so much about where you need to be, because as you evolve and grow, like, the universe will take you where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And don't be so attached to, I need this, or I need that kind of success. It's like, just let go and show up as your best self, and you'll be pulled in wherever you're meant to be pulled into. And just show up for yourself and keep growing. And wherever you end up is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I think the universe has a way of showing itself, of bringing you where you're supposed to go as well. And I love that we have this conversation too, just because for anyone starting out, just like I was just saying, you know, all they're thinking about is just money, 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 and that's it. But then they don't realize where just everything that we just talked about you have to really find your values, what you define success as. And just like you said, it changes over time as well. Like, for me right now, I'm in that phase too, where all I care about is friends, experiences, doing new things, because I haven't done all this stuff yet. But I'm sure, just like you said, that'll change over time as well.
I will say that the more you're attached to needing money or needing to get somewhere, the slower you'll get there. The more you're attached, the harder it'll be.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest growth in life has been where I'm just like, all right, I surrender to the outcome. I'm just going to do what I know I need to do. And things have happened in ways that are like, I've been in rooms with people that I'm like, how did this even happen today?
Yeah.
Like, in my book, I talk about how I ended up at Michael Jordan's house one day randomly, hanging out with him and Ahmad Rashad. And it was like, it wasn't like I planned that. Mm-hmm. And the more you're attached, the reason why I say that is the more you're attached to outcomes, the more you have expectations of the way they need to be. And they don't end up the way that you expect them to be, because things can happen infinite different ways. And when they don't happen that way, then you start to feel fear or lack or whatever the negative emotion you get from not getting that thing that you want it to happen that way. And you change yourself in the moment, and in turn, your life around you gets worse. So it's like, just let go and don't worry so much about how things happen. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Just have fun.
So, do you personally yourself, or think people should have, you know, short-term or long-term goal setting, or people in business, should they be setting like numbers and certain projections, or is it just what you said? They should just show up and do what they're supposed to every day and be their best selves.
I think businesses do need goals as an organization. People need something to work towards. As an individual, I think it's helpful to write out goals, sit down, think about what you want so that you can visualize it. But there's a difference between having goals and having attachments. So you can have goals, but if you're not hitting them, you don't want to feel attached to not hitting them, because that's just going to ruin you in the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I would say what's more important than having goals, financial goals, things like that, is like what I do is at the end of the day, I'll sit down with a notebook and I'll write out everything I did for the day. And I'll say, you know, I got up, I took a piss, I did, you know, everything I did for the day I can remember.
Yeah.
And anything I did that was good, that like I knew I needed to do, I'll write in green. Anything I did that was impulsive and stupid, I'll write in red. And I'll look through it, I'll rate my day, and then I'll just try to show up better the next day.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't wrote out financial goals, and I mean, I don't even know if I ever have, to be honest with you, personally. Maybe it works for some people. I think writing out a vision, but here's the thing. If you're in a low energy state and you're trying to think of your vision's going to be clouded and it's going to be shitty.
Yep.
It's like, think about your vision when you're in a high vibrational state, whether that's, you know, you just went for a run or you're having a great time with your friends or something. When you're feeling really good, that's when you want to think about your vision, and that's the vision you want to capture. Because when you're in a dark place, your mind paints a vision that's not real. So it's good to have a vision, and it's good to know it and have it as an anchor point, but it's also important to not be attached to the outcomes, because that ruins you when you're attached.
That's a really good point too, is when you're in a high energy or high vibrational state, I think that's when you're going to find what you truly want as well. And it's going to be the right one. It's not going to be faded and cloudy. So that's really good. I know for me, like, it's so crazy, because I remember just looking up different things online, or like things that I want to hit. Like, I would just envision them so much. I would literally go to bed when I was testing products and like figuring out dropshipping, like thinking about getting a Shopify notification. I'd be like smiling in my bed, staring at the ceiling, like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to come. And of course, eventually it did. And then when I moved down here to Florida with all my other friends, I remember I was like looking up apartment buildings, and I was like, oh, like this would be the best one. I wish I could make that happen. And I was like, you know, looking around, whatever. A few months later, I ended up in the exact apartment that I like didn't even think would end up being possible. And it's not about a material thing. It's just about like, oh, this is what I really envisioned, what I wanted. Same thing with, I just bought a car that I'm gonna get this weekend. It was like my dream car that I always thought of, like the first second I saw it. But I was like, like I don't know if I'll be able to do that. It's like such a far thing. And then it just happens like so unexpectedly, where it's just the universe has such a weird way of showing itself. And now it's like, these are the exact things that I literally envisioned, and now it's like actually becoming a thing in reality.
Yeah.
And it's always such a surreal moment.
It's very, very real what you're saying, and I think that's why you've had the success you've had at such a young age, because the thing you said, that I was in bed and I was smiling about the Shopify sales.
Yeah.
The people that are not getting the results are the people that are worried, that are putting out more fear and worry than they are joy and excitement. It's just the balance. If you can be more on that spectrum, you're going to get better outcomes in life. I had a crazy story. I'll try to sum it up really quickly, of like manifesting something that like totally shattered my view on reality. It was actually before my my drive from Los Angeles to Florida. I went to a Tony Robbins event. Like, I'd never been to an event like that before, and my friend, who's a NFL player, he invited me, so I went with him. We did this exercise where, like, you know, you get in a really high energy state, and then you basically do a meditation where you're imagining yourself, but as someone else that like really loves and cares about you, walking up to your future life. So like, I imagine myself as my aunt walking up to my future life and like admiring my future life. And you know, you look at the cars in the driveway, you know, walk into the house, you're admiring the family, whatever it is that you love about your life. And at the end of the exercise, you like walk into the bathroom and you look in the mirror, and it was you the whole time. And it was like this crazy mind fuck, because like my ego didn't get in the way of my beautiful life saying, oh, you can't have, because I was as her. And then 60 days, and at that time I maybe had $10,000 in my bank, or I don't even remember. It was a minuscule amount of money. And 60 days later, I was driving the car that was my vision, the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
But I bought it, and I didn't even realize it was that. And then like, I'm driving it for 2 weeks, and then I realized, holy shit, that was the same car that I had in that vision. And at the time, I had no physical way of figuring out how to purchase this thing. But by putting a strong emotion behind a strong vision, somehow the universe provided this physical thing into my life. And that's when I was like, holy shit, there's more to creation in life than what I thought.
I heard it the perfect way recently, because I always thought, the same way, like you really got to think about what you want and manifest it, think about it, whatever it is. But I heard someone else explain it in a clip the best way possible, which I knew this subconsciously, but I didn't hear it worded like this, where, you know, you can pray for, manifest, think about what it is or whatever you want, but you have to meet it halfway with the effort and the work and all the energy that you're actually putting in to get there. And that's when it's actually going to happen, not just, you know, sitting there blissfully hoping for something.
100%.
When you're able to meet it halfway, that's, I think, when you're going to get exactly what it is that
But
you're
I
thinking
think
of.
the only way people can meet it halfway these days is by removing a lot of the bullshit from their lives.
Yeah.
Like, again, I'm not. I guess I'm a generation older now, but like, even people my generation are so addicted to their phones.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have any social media on my phone, and it's the most freeing thing. I have way more space to do things that fuel me. Like read, for example, in the morning, instead of scrolling, I'll read a book. And it's like, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but over time, it is a big deal. It's like my subconscious is like, feels proud of the fact that I read and learned something. Whereas, you know, after 2 minutes of scrolling, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, you should probably get off your phone, but your mind's just, no, I'll do more.
Yeah.
Like, that has a way bigger effect on people than they realize. And it's talked about, but like, it's so fun and so entertaining that nobody really cares. But if you can get out of that rat race at your age,
Yeah.
you have such a big advantage over everyone else that meeting your vision halfway is going to be a lot easier for you than for other people.
And also, you just get all of that time to just actually think your own thoughts for yourself. I think that's another epidemic, too, that comes with the phone so much and social media is a lot of people have, you know, they, of course, everyone forms their own thoughts and opinions, but I think most of the time it's like, is this what you really think? Like, do you even form your own thought? Or is it because you saw someone else say it? Yeah.
Dude, you think people love Donald Trump or love Kamala Harris? They don't even know them. They're completely brainwashed by what they consume at scale.
And it's like, it's crazy because people are so emotionally passionate about stuff like that. And it's like, this isn't even like your true self of what you really think.
It's just a distraction from what matters.
Yeah,
it's a distraction.
Absolutely. I literally was having this conversation with my friends at dinner the other day. We were like looking at our phones, comparing our screen times and, you know, seeing who has it worse and stuff. And I just can't wait till because if I just have my phone, if I have it in like another room for like an hour, and then I remember it's there because I'm like working on my computer, I'll be like, oh shit, like, wait, what notification did I miss? Did someone call me? This, that, and the third. But also it's like with the business that I run and everything online, I do need to be very in the phone and online. But there will be a day sometime soon where I get to that point where I could just no social media, no anything, get off the phone and just detox and be by myself. But
you actually could do like, you know, 1 day a week where you don't use your phone. Absolutely. And that's actually, you get a huge recharge from that. It doesn't have to be like a whole lifestyle change. It could be little changes that make a big difference, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The best part of my day is literally like, I'm not always so strict on such a crazy routine all the time, but before I ever start my day, every single time I wake up, I go for a walk. Right below my apartment building, there's like a nice little river walk. It's right on the boats, all the water. I don't bring headphones. I don't even bring my phone. I just walk, go there, come back. And this is always when I also get all of my best ideas too, where it's like an idea for a YouTube video or a script for something that I wanted to do or like an idea for something to level up the business. And it's just when I'm taking that time to be by myself.
Dude, it's not a coincidence that, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of really incredible people on my podcast and I've been around a lot of really incredible people. And like the people that have made changes in the world and have had an impact and have created enjoyable lives for themselves, they value solitude. They value time with themselves. Like that's where that's where the greatest ideas don't come from your mind searching for them. They come to you. If you're feeling a certain way, like if you're feeling amazing and you're free and your mind's not distracted first thing in the morning, you're going to attract thoughts that are of that frequency.
Yeah.
If you're feeling shitty and you haven't kept any promise, you haven't had the space to yourself, you jumped right into your day, you're going to attract thoughts of that frequency. And your thoughts are what propel you forward. So it's like guarding your energy is the number one thing that needs to be focused on. Like that I, at least for me, is the thing that I focus on most is guarding my energy. Giving myself that space every day. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need that first before literally anything else, before the business, before you
100%.
can be a good person to your friends or whatever it is. You need all that first, and it's like a cheat code. Just take that time to yourself to just sit there, meditate, think, and it'll literally just come to you. It's like a magic trick. It's crazy.
I did a podcast yesterday with Lori Van Dusen. She was the Forbes #1 financial advisor in the Barron's Hall of Fame. She built almost a $6 billion book of business when she was at Citibank in 2008, and then she left Citibank and then got sued by Citibank, which was the biggest bank in the world at the time, and she was facing a lawsuit from millions of dollars of legal, and at the same time the financial crisis came, and all of her clients, like, it was like the most stressful time. Like, I couldn't even imagine anything nearly as stressful. And the funny thing is, she also happened to be someone who ran 15 marathons. So she was a runner.
Yeah.
And she said that the thing that allowed her to get through those hard times and be clear-headed and think was her running habit. And like, that was the thing that she credited to being able to grow to where she was, fight that battle, and continue onward. And that's just that solitude.
Yeah, that's crazy. What do you have to say? Because, I'm very aware and understand all this stuff and practice it all the time, but sometimes where, let's say I'll be on a really good strand of eating healthy for like a little while, and then I'll always have that relapse day where I'm just like, just feasting out, having cheat meals and going back. And then just like you said, then you're at a low frequency, you don't feel good, you sleep bad, and then those are the thoughts that you attract. And it's like, oh, I got to restart all over again. How do you find a way to kind of just break all the bad habits, like not permanently, because I think it is okay to, you got to live your life at some point, but just kind of, what I said.
I know exactly what you need to hear.
Yeah.
So, first of all, everyone, fucks up or does something that they're, like, no matter what. If someone says maybe like David Goggins or someone, but most people, everyone has, they fuck up, they slip up, whatever it is. And that's okay. But what's important to understand is, if you're on a really good path and you're kind of like steadily, you're getting more and more confident. Like, confidence does kind of grow linearly. Everything else doesn't, but confidence does. You slip up, right? Okay. If you bounce right back the next day, you're only a little bit below where you were. You're kind of back on track. In a day or two, you're right back on your track. The problem is, you slip up, your mind's like, oh shit, that was good. Like, you know what? I fucked up yesterday. I'm gonna fuck up. I'll start again next week. Next week comes around. Well, New Year's is in a month. Whatever. I'll be okay. No big deal.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks where you're not back to where you were. And now when you get back on the train, you're kind of starting from ground zero again. So the concept to understand is, it's not about how often you fuck up. It's not about beating yourself up for it. It's just simply about knowing that if you bounce back quickly, you're not really losing much progress. But if you take a long time to bounce back, which is very easy to do because your mind is like, oh shit, I like that. That's good. Or wait, whatever, it convinces you. Then you're losing all your progress. So it's just really about how fast you can bounce back.
Yeah, that's really good. Just because beating yourself up, I think, is like one of the main culprits of, for me and most people, is like, it's just one fuck up and then you just beat yourself up over it, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But then it's also, at the same time, you got to remind yourself, everyone does this. No one's a perfect human being. So
yeah, and just bounce back.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Okay, I'll make sure to start implementing that and remind myself of this combo so I can practice it.
Yeah, it's something you got to consciously remember. And like, we take in so much information and so many lessons and thoughts that, like, sometimes you don't remember these things. And that's why solitude in the morning is so important, because it gives you the time to remember the things that you know. It gives you the time to realign with those types of lessons. Maybe you fucked up the day before. Oh, hold on a second. I'm going to bounce back today. But if you just jump right into the day, your mind has control over you. You're right. You're right on that path you were on.
How long have you been journaling and writing stuff down for? Because I remember you were just saying you would write the good things about the day and the bad things about the day and try to be better. I know for me personally, even just opening up the notepad on my phone, I'll be going to bed at night. I write down all the stuff. I'm like, these are in order of priority of like what I need to get done to make sure I have a good day, make sure I feel good, and get all the stuff done. And then I'll wake up the next day and I'll like look at the notepad and I'll just start checking stuff off.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I don't hit everything, but I'll just carry it on to the next day. And I know that just writing stuff down, just putting it out into the ether, it kind of just helps me, stick to the right things.
Yeah, we're kind of like a tea kettle that's like boiling, and there's like steam building in it. Every time there's more things you have to do or remember, the steam gets stronger and stronger. And then when you write things down, it's like you open up the valve and the steam comes out.
Yeah,
You're
it's
like,
crazy.
Even if you don't do the things and you just get them written out, it makes you feel way more clear. I think it's a practice that like, if you do that every day, that's amazing. You'll probably never get too overwhelmed that way. If you never do it, it's really fucking hard to navigate life if you have things that you're responsible for. If you're working at a job and you're just kind of like, nothing wrong with working at a job, by the way, but if you're like doing something you don't really want to be doing, you don't really care that much, you probably still should write things out. But I think to answer the question, it is a huge release of stress and anxiety just to get it out of your brain and mind.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Because I remember when I found it, I was like, wait, it's just so much better. It's kind of giving myself a step-by-step checklist of like how to just get everything done that I need to get done and feel good and just like literally everything ever.
The thing that you will notice though is that since our minds are so clever, and I think the smarter you are the higher IQ you have, the stronger your mind is. The mind will say, we don't actually need to write things down. We know what it's going to feel like if we write them down. So don't worry about doing it today. Do it tomorrow, right? Or we don't need to go out and walk today. We know what the feeling is going to be like if we do it. The mind will convince you not to because it's clever. But then when you do it, you're like, oh, yeah, that's why I did it. Yeah. So it's like it's important to recognize the mind in its ability to convince you not to do the things that you know you need to do and recognize it for what it is. It's there to keep you comfortable. Learning the mind is, I think, one of the biggest goals as a human being, and learning how to navigate it and learning the tricks of it, like that gives you a huge advantage in life. Yeah,
I agree 100%. I started doing this thing on my Twitter last year or 2 years ago where when the new year comes, I'll write down in 2023 and I write down all the stuff that I kind of accomplished or stuff that I was proud of that I ended up doing. And then I'll make another notepad in my phone. So, for this year I wrote down in 2024 and I wrote down all the stuff that I ended up doing that I was proud of, accomplishments, whatever. And then I go on my phone and then I make a 2025 notepad. I'm like, all right, these are all the things that I have to hit. And then I quote the tweet from the year prior and then just write, making sure that I hit them. And it's awesome because I love putting that out there because they ended up, those tweets ended up getting a lot of impressions. And then on my timeline, I started seeing a ton of other people doing the same thing. And I love seeing that because it's not, there's I don't know, people like my age, there's this stigma around oh, you gotta fucking write shit down, whatever. It's just bro, just do it. Yeah. It's literally such a cheat code. And I just love doing that. It's helped so much.
It's scary to put out your goals publicly and and haters will hate on you for it, but they probably just hate themselves.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's great. That's a good example to lead by.
Let me ask you this too, because I know you've been doing, content stuff for a long time, always been being on camera, getting comments and stuff. I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm still getting used to being on camera. I just started, posting TikToks here and there to kind of start growing personal brand stuff. I'll get a hate comment here or there and I'm just like, all right, I'm not going to respond to it, but I'm thinking about it for a little bit. How did you kind of navigate that after doing it for so long? Is it just about doing it for a while and you just get used to it and it doesn't matter? Obviously I realize it doesn't actually affect me. Obviously these people, if they're hating, they hate themselves. I don't think I've ever written a hate comment in my life, but it's kind of just a use of being on camera thing. So how did you kind of navigate that with having eyes on you as Jared?
Yeah, because I was never good with I was never a social media guy where I was making content all the time. I was a paid ads guy. So when I had my program, all my traffic and views would come from paid ads, and those are where all the hate comes, right? Because you're targeting cold audiences that don't know you. I would never look at it, to be honest with you. I don't really like putting. I have a podcast because I think it the only thing I want to put out at this stage. I used to put things out because it was fun and I wanted the validation and it really did affect me, the hate and stuff like that. But now it's I am putting out things my podcasts and having incredible conversations that if someone has something negative to say, I literally don't care because I'm not judging myself from it. It's I'm putting out my best here. Yeah. So I think if you're doing your best and you're not doing something that you're questioning why you're doing it, you're doing and you wholeheartedly know that you should your list, right? That you should be doing that. Then it just gets completely deflected. But I think once there's a layer of inauthenticity where you're am I becoming someone I don't know if I want to be, then the hate affects you a lot more. Yeah. It makes you doubt yourself a lot more.
Yeah. And it's also a thing of people are always, they might be self-conscious of what other people think. And it's, as my mind has matured too, I realize how much people aren't even actually thinking about you and how much it doesn't
Yeah.
even actually matter. But it's always like, I would always have a stress of like, oh, it's such a stress of being perceived by other people.
Yeah.
But it's also a thing where I think everyone just gets in their own head where it's like, this person might think that whatever it is, but I think most people at the end of the day don't actually care. Because if I think about what I think about other people, I might see something for a second, but I don't actually, carry
Yeah,
that
you
in my
don't
head or
think about
care
it.
about it. Yeah.
Just
And it's
quick.
Yeah,
Very-
it's a thing to like really grow into and realize.
You think that everyone's looking at you and thinking about you. In reality, some asshole might leave a comment on passing and nobody thinks about it anymore.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, just like the imposter syndrome, if you're being true to yourself, whether it's with your content, with your daily habits and routines, like, you do build a pretty big shield to other people's opinions because you know that you're doing the things you need to be doing.
Yeah,
That's why it's so
exactly.
important to keep those promises to yourself.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Is that all we have?
Impromptu, manually recorded podcast.
yeah, random on the spot pod. But I think that was really good, especially for anyone watching at any stage. They can definitely take something from this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
It was fun.
banger.
Intro.